Burritos are inarguably the pinnacle of handheld food. That massive, soft, pliable tortilla is the perfect blank canvas for anything you want to fill it with. So let's fill it with spicy Korean stir-fried pork. The real star here is the incredibly delicious, glistening pork, but before we get into that, we need to talk sauces and textural fillings, because I think those are sort of make it or break it when it comes to good burrito making. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Every good burrito needs a good sauce, something to keep the whole thing juicy and moist. The pork's gonna hit on the spicy and garlicky notes, so I want the sauce to hit tangy, fragrant, and a little sweet. Kimchi is gonna be the base flavor. With all of its tangy deliciousness, this sauce is bound to be amazing. Instead of just raw kimchi, it's tastier to use a sauteed version. To a hot skillet, add a little oil and then about 2 to 3 tablespoons of the fermented good stuff. If you've not been cooking with kimchi, you've definitely been missing out on a lot of flavor in your dishes. This just needs a few minutes on the stove to really concentrate and deepen the flavor. Fried kimchi is a little less bright, but a bit more savory, so I'm a huge fan of it. To make our sauce, grab a tall container and add a 1/4 cup of Kimchi Mayo, 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, 1 teaspoon of sugar, all of your fried kimchi. For good measure, I'm gonna throw in some gochugaru as well, just for a little bit of spice because I can't help myself. And then a little splash of sesame oil. To combine, I'll give this a blitz with my stick blender, and that's it. Really what we're looking for here is for those large pieces of kimchi to be completely broken down. This sauce may seem easy, and it is, but it takes the burrito to a whole new level. Now, I'm a firm believer that burritos need something crunchy to break up the soft textures of the tortilla in the meat. In this case, I'm gonna opt for a lightly seasoned slaw. This is a situation that I'm not above using a bagged slaw for. I'm not ashamed of it. It's super convenient and it's exactly what I would be cutting up anyways. Green cabbage, red cabbage, and carrot. It's literally a perfect mix for this. A splash of rice vinegar and a pinch of sugar. Give it a mix, and the secret is to squeeze this with some tongs to ensure that the vinegar breaks down the cabbage slightly. When I've got raw cabbage, I like to do this so it's easier to chew. It's one of those little things you can do to make your burritos like 5 to 10% better, I'd say. Nobody likes massive chunks of fibrous vegetables that you just can't chew through in a burrito. That's not good eats. This is our slaw ready to cut through all of the spicy pork that's gonna be inside this burrito. Now, one last filling before the pork, and it's a little bit contentious. I've got a very opinionated stance on rice in burritos, and this recipe is sort of the exception that proves the rule. In most cases, I think rice is wasted space inside of a burrito. As I've covered on this channel, I'm a huge bean boy, so I would take beans over rice any day in my Mexican burritos. All that being said, well-made white rice is a traditional pairing for this spicy pork called Jeyuk Bokkeum, so I'll make an exception. Measure out 1 cup of rice and give it a wash. The key to good white rice is in the washing stage. The water should run clear by the time you're done washing it. If it's still cloudy, keep going. If you're not getting good rice, this is probably where you're messing up. Most people will try to give you a number of how many times you need to wash your rice. I find that whatever that number is, it always undershoots how many times you really need to wash it to get your rice clear. So if a recipe says wash your rice 5 times, just double it and you'll be safe. Add the washed rice to a rice cooker along with about 1.5 cups of water and a pinch of salt. By the way, this is the brand of rice I prefer. We pretty much use it for everything, from Korean dishes to stir fries. It's a pretty good all-around workhorse when it comes to rice. Once your rice cooker goes off, let this cool for like 5 to 10 minutes, and then give it a fluffing with the paddle, and it's ready to catch the juices from the pork. With all of our parts of the burrito prepped and ready to go, we need to make this super delicious stir-fried pork that's gonna take the dish over the top. For this, start with half a yellow onion sliced down into strips. Go at this from pole to pole to ensure that they're not stringy once they're cooked. You want these pieces just large enough so that they can soften while maintaining the slightest little crunch. You also need a few large pieces of scallion green to add near the end of cooking. Simply wash and chop these into roughly 2-inch pieces. The nice thing is that's all of our vegetable prep needed for the pork. Now to handle the pork itself. We need roughly 1 pound of boneless pork shoulder, thinly sliced. If you can get this thinly sliced, just like cut pork shoulder from the store, great. If not, I'm gonna show you how to cut it yourself. Luckily, the shoulder I got came in these large strips already, which is perfect because it means I can cut them in half and then just use a very, very sharp knife to slice them down into pieces. What I would recommend here is going slow and be mindful of the type of fat that you see in the pork shoulder. Pork shoulder's got a ton of fat. It's what makes it so good for long cooks. but sometimes some of the fat is really, really hard, or there's like little bits of gristle. You wanna get those out of your pork stir fry. Those are those little pieces that you get that you like just kinda have to pull out of your mouth and you're not really happy about it. You do wanna try to avoid those. So cut away any hard fat, but any of that nice, soft, intermuscular fat is just gonna render and become nice and soft and delicious when you eat it. Even though pork shoulder is a more tough cut, the final stir fry comes out juicy and tender when it's sliced this thin. So take the slicing process very seriously. The spicy sauce that really makes this special is a simple combination of 2 tablespoons of gochujang, or Korean pepper paste, a half tablespoon of gochugaru, or Korean red peppers, a half tablespoon of dark soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of light soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 tablespoon of mirin, 1 tablespoon of just regular old tap water, 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, 4 cloves of grated garlic, and then about a ½ knob of grated ginger. This is the key to unlocking all the beautiful heat and flavor in this burrito. With this done, we can head over to the stove and get cooking. To fry this up, get a skillet hot over medium-high and then add a touch of cooking oil. Begin frying your pork and season it with salt while you do. Once it starts looking slightly pale and a little brown, you can add in the onions to cook further. If your pan's not super wide, like how mine's not super wide, you're gonna want your heat pretty hot. You wanna sear this as fast as you possibly can, rather than just getting what I got, which is a lot of liquid sort of sitting on the bottom of the pan from the onions and the pork. Eventually that's gonna cook out and it's gonna brown, but the faster you can do that, the better. I like to cook the onion before adding the sauce, and that's mostly because the sauce has sugar that could easily burn. So this is what it looks like right before adding the sauce, starting to brown and look really nice. I've had my heat over like a medium-high this entire time. At this point, I'm gonna drop the heat to low and then add in most of my sauce. I'm gonna hold back a little just in case there's a little bit too much for the pork that I've got. Cook the sauce into the pork until it's sticky, coated, and beginning to slightly caramelize. You can judge how fast it's cooking. If it's going a little bit too slow and not really bubbling and caramelizing, you can turn the heat up a little bit. If it's going too fast, you can just take the pan off the heat for a second. Once it looks like this, you can add in your green onion tops. Give that one last mix and make sure that those green onion tops begin to wilt a little bit from the heat. With that, you've got the perfect pork filling for your burritos. But there's one mistake you can make at the finish line of this dish that's gonna basically ruin the whole thing. One of the biggest burrito blunders is a dry tortilla. A dry tortilla is bound to break and leave you with a lap full of pork. So take your burrito-sized tortilla out of the fridge, wrap it in a wet paper towel, and put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. Once it's hot and steaming, you are ready to build your burrito. If you don't do this, your burrito is gonna crack and you're gonna be having a terrible time. The last key ingredient I forgot to mention is just a big old piece of aluminum foil. The wrapping is much easier with foil, and the whole burrito kind of steams together and gets nice and soft and cohesive that way. For building, lay down a little bit of that white rice and then hit it with your pork. Be generous here, but don't fill it so much that you're not gonna be able to close it. Sauce your pork with the kimchi mayo and then place on a hefty pile of that tangy slaw. Take the 2 outer sides and fold those up and in to slightly cover the ends. These are really what's gonna seal those ends together. Take the side closest to you and use your thumbs to sort of push the tortilla up and over the filling. I don't know what the sound effect is. Imagine it's helpful. That's how you wrap up a good burrito. Now wrap it in foil to get that steaming effect from the hot rice and the hot tortilla and the hot pork. That way everything stays nice and cohesive. Everything here is playing its part perfectly. The tortilla is that sort of nice, soft, pliable blanket for everything to be wrapped in. The rice is a really good, just sort of starchy, bland counterpoint to the really heavily seasoned pork. The kimchi mayo and the rice vinegar in the slaw bring just enough acid to sort of wake your taste buds up, and it forces you to want to keep going for more bites. Acid is really good at sort of resetting and prepping your mouth for more flavor, so if you leave it out of a dish like this, you find yourself getting bored pretty quick. Truth be told, if you're pushing it, you can make this burrito in like 15 minutes. If you do the pork and the rice at the same time, there's almost no cooking whatsoever involved. You can do what I do sometimes and just use microwavable rice, ooh, heathen, and then it's done in like 10 minutes. It's so easy and it's so delicious. I can guarantee you're gonna be happy you made these, and these are absolutely gonna become a new favorite in your staple rotation. I wanna take a second to give a massive shout out to the amazing people supporting me directly on Patreon through patreon.com/CameronMarty. They get some cool benefits for supporting the channel, and I get to keep making videos like this, so consider checking it out and becoming a patron. If you want more of this type of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.